to you today talking about sales, in fact. So as you know, usually we're talking about general conversions of leads, but today we're specifically talking about the pointy end of sales, the actual sales conversation itself, and objections. So to set context for that, objections being that when you get to normally the end of a sales call of someone coming up with all the reasons why they can't proceed with your product or service. Just realized I need to do a quick mic check. There we go. Yep, I'm on the right mic. And I'm wearing glasses today, by the way, if you've seen any of my other videos. These are just my blue light, my daytime blue light blocking glasses that I still have on, so we'll just leave them on. So that'll be another video. So I want to talk about 3 things today that can really help you improve your closing rates or your opening rates. Some people prefer to think of it in sales as like a starting point rather than an end point. So, starting rates, some people say, instead of closing rates. But either way, objections being at the end where someone's like, I don't have the money, or I need to talk to my partner, or I don't think this product's the right fit for me. I'm not really clear on what this is. I need to think about it. All these sorts of things. That's what we refer to as objections, right? And so my approach with this is not so much to give you like a download of cards of like, if they have this objection, this is how you handle this objection, right? Because if you understand the principles of preventing the objections in the first place, then you can apply it to pretty well every situation or most examples, right? So, and I'll talk about a couple of examples on this live stream as well. So, yeah, basically, let's dive in here. So, I'm actually going to jump to what I referred to in the post as the second point, which is talking about the objections in advance. Now, the reason for this is that if an objection is actually a discussion point that's been overcome or handled or agreed upon, that's not really an objection in advance during the call, then it's less likely, or it's almost even difficult for the potential client to bring that up at the end and say, well, actually, I need to talk to my partner about this. So for example, let's use that example right now, and let's talk about gym sales, selling a fitness membership, for example, or a fitness program. Maybe it's a 28-day kickstart on the phone. And so I'm making this really sort of black and white. I know it's not this black and white normally, but just as an example, let's take the partner objection. All sounds amazing. Get to the end of the call. I'm totally in. I will get back to you just after I catch up with my partner tonight. Okay, that one. Okay, I'm sure everybody's heard that sort of thing. So if during the process, and maybe even at the beginning of the phone call, you do have a conversation about what are you here to talk about? What are we here for? It's like, yes, we're going to make a decision today about getting started. Is there anyone else that you'd like to be part of this decision? Like, is this, for example, they might already mention to you, or you might know they have a partner, right? In the general small talk, like, is this something your partner would like to discuss, get in on this call, whatever, things like that, right? And so they might say, for example, no, it was their idea. They think I should really just start taking my fitness seriously. They're very keen for me to get something started, right? Well, they might say to you, like, yeah, I definitely, whatever we do today, I think I need to, I'm going to have to chat with my partner about it. Well, at that point, in many cases, you may as well just book another phone call to get both of them in, or you may as well get both of them in, because if you're going to go through the whole process for them to then give a watered down version to their spouse or whatever, it's very unlikely to go ahead. So you can probably save yourself both time and then just reschedule the call at a time when all parties that are going to make a decision can get on the phone, right? And I know that might sound a bit crazy, but honestly, most of my recent experience is in B2B, but I have done B2C sales as well. But it was a long time ago, and you could do that, right? You can arrange a time to talk to both people, right? People get on speakerphone all the time, like, and just have a conversation with 2 people on one end and 1 person on the other. It's fine. It sounds unusual, but people do it. So basically, at the end, if they've already said, let's take the first example where they said, no, it's fine. They're really keen for me to get started. At the end of the call, when they don't want to get started if they don't want to get started for any reason, they're not going to cite that example, right? Because, and then, so this can be, applied to lots of things. You can do it to, the funds, the timing of when to get started. Well, I'll use that as another example, right? So the timing on when to get started. So again, if you put it in their court as to, well, when is this important for you to get started? And then you have that information, and then when you're offering the product at the end, that fits with what they said, again, you're not going to run into that objection. And then sort of the part two of this point, I listed it as point one on this post, is using your organic content, which is that when you're posting your organic content on your various social media platforms, you can even talk about some of these objections. If there's things that you commonly hear all the time, you can discuss these and just have an open discussion. Obviously, it's a one-way thing, but if then people have, they've consumed that content and they're getting on a phone call with you anyway, they might feel a bit silly, or they might think, no, I can't really bring that up as an excuse, right? Which comes to really this point number three, is that objections are often what I call a mismatch of priorities, right? Because many times objections are actually excuses. Okay, so as an aside point, if you're looking at, okay, well, why are they making excuses? Usually, if someone's making excuses, they don't like you, or they don't trust you, or it's the product doesn't fit, or it's just not clear enough what the product is, like what's happening. And it's the old classic thing, if you've heard it before, what is it? Does it work? And does it work for me? And then underlying all this, do I trust you to actually execute on what you're saying? So if they're making excuses, that's often why that happens. But so that's something you can work on, right? Is, clarity on what the product is. That's a whole other topic in terms of what I call context-based sales, in terms of explaining the context of your service. Sorry, explaining the elements of your product or service in context to what they need, and not just giving them a whole bunch of stuff and just, verbal diarrhea as to what this product is and why it's so amazing. Just let them pull from it what it is and that it satisfies all the things they need. Let them get absolute clarity on what the product or the service is. As to whether or not they trust you, that's going to be a case of your whole demeanor in your sales process, and what's the process been, and what's the brand of your company. So yeah, if you have that clarity and trust and they've seen some results, then you're not likely to get the excuses side of things, which leaves us with the objections being really a mismatch of priorities. So again, if we use the money side of it, okay, we haven't talked about that. It's too expensive. Okay, and so this is a big one at the moment, because a lot of people talk about the rise of cost of living here in Australia. And so the tendency is to think, well, if someone can't excuse this, well, fair enough, because I understand that mortgages are going up, rents are going up, the grocery shop's going up and things like that. And yet, again, you can build this into the sales process, that if you have an open discussion about money during the process, it's likely that in the context of a gym membership, even if you're selling like a fairly premium service at $200 a month, that there's potentially $200 a month that is going into things that are actually sending them the other direction. This is where like sales in health and fitness is not easy necessarily, but quite logical, right? So the person who's investing $200 a month in eating out, possibly cigarettes or other drugs such as alcohol, any of these things that are totaling to $200 a month, many of which move them away from their health objectives, and you're offering something that would move them toward it, and all they need to do is stop doing those things as step one, which instantly creates the funds available to do what you do. So you can see, if you have that discussion during the process, it's less likely that someone can say they've already realized that they can free up, if nothing else from your program, they'll free up, maybe it's probably more, honestly, for a lot of people. They might free up $200, $300, $400 a month just from doing this. And your process is only $150 or $200 a month as a once-off, just to try it for a month. It's a win-win financially there. And so again, it becomes not very logical for them to have an excuse. So you can see where I'm coming from, hopefully, with this idea of objection handling and preventing the objections through earlier discussion. So in terms of the practicalities of applying this, this is where it's really, really helpful to make notes during your calls. Every person that says no is actually really valuable information when you can pull from that person, or that you can pull from that conversation. What happened on that conversation? What did we talk about? What did we not talk about? What were the objections cited during the process? And if these are coming up over and over again, then how do I build that into my process that I can help more people. Because that's how I close this off, is that sales is about helping people, right? As long as you're selling something that genuinely helps someone. And again, health and fitness is a great example. You're not selling snake oil. You're not trying to con them into some property investment that they don't need or something like that, right? You're genuinely there to help them. And if they're not already training somewhere, they haven't met the right person. And so if you can have that sales process, that conversion process to get them on the phone, just to have that conversation, and then you have the skills to turn that conversation into a decision, like either way, yes or no, make a decision, have a process that allows them the confidence to decide on this and move forward, or to decide, you know, it's not important right now. Okay, but you know, if they met you and they trust you, well, then when they are ready, then you know that's where they might come back to. So that's today's short video on preventing sales objections. Is to understand that it's really a preventative approach through your organic content and how you approach those objections when you're talking one-to-many. How you structure the sales call itself or the conversation itself to make sure you have an honest conversation about the things that are likely to come up at the end as objections. And finally, just, you know, build into that process. Make it really clear, what is the product and service? Who is it for? Does it work? Will it work for them? Do they trust you? And then you'll see, if you apply these points, that you'll have a lot better run at the end of the day, helping a lot more people. You know, you might be having, for every 10 conversations, maybe you're only getting, and I'm talking about ads. I'm well aware that most fitness professionals sell like 90% of people that walk in the door and ask for a gym membership. I kind of joke, it's sort of like selling you know, organic leads and people that are just coming in, your walk-ins. It's kind of like taking an order at a drive-through. They're just double checking that you're not a bunch of weirdos. But when you move to the area of paid ads, for example, or you're doing more outreach, you know, maybe you're emailing local businesses in the area and their staff are coming in, things like that. People who don't know you as well, that's when these points become more important. Make sure you've got your organic content aligned to actually address some of these objections in advance. Have that structured phone call that they can get clarity on all these points in advance, so they don't have to just come up with a bunch of excuses because they don't have clarity at the end, and you will see your sales rates increase. Cool. As an update, for those of you following my stuff, I'm still working on the project to give an updated version of my membership accelerator program, which you know, businesses used to invest $3,000 to up to $5,000 in one version to access. So I'm going to be giving it away for free. Just make sure that you're following or you're subscribed to the YouTube channel wherever you've caught this, so that you can keep up with the announcements as to when I release that. If you've got any comments or questions or thoughts on today's video, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.